some opportunities to share, Sharon. As I was just saying, this, and I'll give you the little overview, but we are going to have some back and forth here and some dialogue. We're even going to make use of the breakout rooms here within Zoom that will help us out here. But so since we are here at the top of hour, we'll go ahead and get started. And as people come in, we'll welcome them. Like Krista. Good morning, Krista.
Good morning.
So yep, we can hear you. We can hear you. And we're gonna we'll go ahead and get into this. We got a kind of a packed schedule, more packed than it originally was because of the goings on over the last really 2 weeks. So we'll jump into that. But so today really is the first of these access calls. The access program is Integras's essentially client engagement program for organizations that are utilizing DISC and 5 behaviors. And it's, as I'll get into a little bit, it's one of our innovations to try to create a little bit more community and also provide a little bit of a loyalty program there. But we do have a few folks that are new to Integras joining us today. So I did just want to touch briefly on who we are at Integras and what we're all about. This is going to be quick. So if you know it, it's a reminder. If you're new, fantastic. But our vision really is to expand the existence of healthy organizations and great places to work. That's why Evans and I started this company back in 2011, and we're driving every day to play a role in achieving that vision. Really, our goal and kind of our role within achieving that vision, because obviously that vision is going to take all of us to do. Our goal really is to be the most innovative and value-adding partner that we can be. So our goal is to help people like you that are utilizing DISC, 5 behaviors, the leadership challenge, all of those things. And in fact, our core programs are those that I just mentioned. Everything DISC, the 5 behaviors cohesive team, which by the way, has now been rebranded as the 5 behaviors. And I'll tell you a little more about that later. And the leadership challenge. Hey, good morning, Reid. Good to see you.
Good morning. Maybe you don't want to see me. It's early out.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure.
And that is why I am not on camera this morning.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Come on. That's the benefit of working from home.
Megan.
So anyway, so our goal at Integras is really to help organizations and independent consultants, quite honestly, utilize these programs, utilize these brands. And our goal is to be as innovative as we possibly can. And like I said, this access program that we've created, which is this quarterly call that we're doing, is really about how do we keep you all updated with the latest information on these brands, on these programs. We envision these quarterly calls. We're going to be sharing ideas. We'll have some calls where we might dig into, one of the products really deeply, share some facilitation ideas. As you know, this call, we've rejiggered the agenda largely to talk about the goings on right now with COVID-19. So we'll be flexible with these, but it's an opportunity for us to really stay engaged with all of you and make sure that you are being as successful as possible with your programs. So today we are using Zoom. And matter of fact, we're using Zoom a lot more. One of the things we are going to talk about during this call is how the heck are we combating this COVID-19 when we're all working from home and not having meetings and things like that. And Zoom is something that we're making a whole lot of use of. So on today's call, there is a chat box. So if you have questions, what Evans and I are going to try to do is keep an eye on the chat box as we go and answer questions as they come up. If we have a little bit of time at the end, we'll have a dedicated period for a little bit of that Q&A. And of course, we will answer any of these as we go, as we get finished there. We will also be using breakout rooms a little bit later. If any of you are looking, and I know Krista, I'm talking to you. If any of you are looking to do more virtual training, these breakout rooms in Zoom can actually be a very powerful thing. So you get a chance to use that today, and we'll gather some information from you today. And then we'll also do a little bit of polling. So actually, I want to get started with our first poll here, which is, what is your primary role? So please choose one of these. Are you primarily an internal HR, OD, or L&D professional? Primarily a non-HR operational leader, or primarily an external consultant? Yeah, we got most of us here are the internal HR, OD professionals. Got a leader and an external consultant. Well, fantastic. That will be good. And having a little bit of that blend will be helpful to us as we get into some of the discussions around how are we handling the current situation. So turns out we have about 60% of us are the internal HR, 13% non-HR and operational leaders, and 25 of us are external consultants. And then one more here. Let's see, we'll go to poll number 2. Just want to get an idea here of what is your familiarity with these ideas of everything DISC and the 5 behaviors inclusive team. Go ahead and choose all of those that apply. For many of you, I do know the answers to these, but for many of you, I do not. So let's find out what we got there. So we got a good amount of familiarity. We got most of us are using everything DISC and using the 5 behaviors inclusive team, and about half, a little more than half, are actually certified to teach or facilitate everything DISC, and only a fourth are accredited to teach and facilitate the 5 behaviors inclusive team. So that's very helpful to know that as we go. So last, before I turn it over to you, Evans, to go through the agenda, I guess I will go ahead and introduce myself to anybody who doesn't know who I am. I am one of the co-founders with Evans Kerrigan, who's going to be joining us here in just a second, president of Integris Performance Advisors, and really excited to have all of you here. Hope this is going to be a really fantastic conversation. Over to you, Evans.
Wonderful, Brett. Thanks. So yes, I'm Evans Kerrigan. I'm the other founder here, and I'm just going to run us through our agenda here. I've been here from the beginning of the business, and I do spend a lot of my time actually out working with clients, and I recognize several of the people who are on this call as well. So to start today, we're going to go through our welcome, and I think we've kind of rolled through that already, and we're trying to keep on pace because I know we have a lot to cover today. We did want to spend a little bit of time with coming attractions, and there's just several pieces that we want to pull out of this. The first of those is there is a brand refresh on the Wiley products. We want to talk a little bit about that. We also want to talk about new products, as well as a book that Brett and I have that will be coming out here in the near future. So we want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. We want to spend the bulk of the meeting, though, actually talking about coronavirus and the impact on training and development. What we're all feeling, both what you're seeing, as well as what we have seen, and then some ideas on how we might be able to help you out with that. Mm-hmm. We'll do a little bit of a wrap up at the end. So I hope that agenda helps meet your needs, and I will point out that we do have a chat box available to you. So if you have questions as we are going through it, please feel free to put those in the chat box as Brett, myself, or Samantha, who is also on this call, are able to get to them. We will respond to questions as we go. We'll also capture notes at the end of the meeting so that we can get back to you on any questions that were asked, as well as the answers to those.
Absolutely. So let's get into the brand refresh. This is actually really exciting, and we're going to be talking about this a lot in the months ahead, I'm sure, because we're really just at the start of it. So the background on this is that really the skill set of social skills, emotional skills, all the data these days is telling us that the demand for these skills is going nowhere but up. Just opposite of the stock market, these are going up, and it's the people on this call and people like us that are really going to be at the forefront of responding to this demand. And you may know that the brands of Everything Disc and the 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Team are owned by an organization called Wiley Publishing. Wiley is a 200-plus-year-old publishing organization, or a fantastic partner for us, and their marketing and product development team has been doing a wonderful job trying to respond to this this demand that's out there. So the focus now on the brand of DISC is really around this idea of being a culture catalyst. Everything we can do to drive culture change in organizations. And the big tagline associated with the brand now is discover the power of we. And so the folks at Wiley have been working hard to kind of outline what the brand promise is and updating products. So here's kind of the brand promise associated with Everything DISC now. It's that we believe that an organization's true potential lies within its people, and our purpose is to ignite cultural transformation by empowering all people to engage, connect, and thrive in the workplace. And as you'll see with some of these other brand refresh, they're really taking the Everything DISC, the entire suite, into this new decade, and I think it's going to really serve all of us very, very well. We have there's one video that I want to share during this call. It is a short 90-second overview, kind of an inspiring video about the power of we. We utilize this in a lot of cases with organizations to get people at all levels really kind of thinking about what is the value and what is the power of this idea of collaboration. So I'm just going to play this here for you.
Discovery lives at the heart of the human experience, inspiring us, connecting us, moving us forward. In a world that pushes us to go further and faster, we've reached a moment where the pace of discovery is overwhelming. The human element is getting lost. To continue creating, innovating, and driving human progress, we must be able to build workplace cultures that inspire discovery. And it starts with reconnecting to ourselves and to each other. We are Everything DISC, and we believe an organization's true potential lies within its people. We believe in a workplace culture that embraces the power of our diverse strengths and styles. We believe that when we enable authentic human connections, something powerful happens. We unlock our potential and reconnect to our real selves. We find genuine appreciation of others and take on new perspectives. We build more collaborative cultures, one interaction at a time. We are Everything DISC. Discover the power of we.
So you probably saw some new imagery there, the inspirational nature of it, the quality of the video. That's something that you're going to see a whole lot more of, because throughout the brand, they are recutting new videos. So if you happen to use videos in your training at all, you're going to have some really powerful new videos associated with you. The brand, the suite itself is actually quite robust now. So we have these assessments and learning opportunities for everyone in the organization with the DISC workplace, which is kind of the foundational, what is your style and how, do you understand the styles of others? And productive conflict, which is a relatively new product in the mix, came out about 1.5 years ago. But really appropriate for everybody in the organization. We have management for managers, which talks about and allows people to look at how do they manage, how do they react to people, how do they supervise people, things like that. We have a couple of programs in the suite now for leaders, the work of leaders and the 363 for leaders. Heck, we even have the opportunity for the sales and the customer service folks with Everything DISC sales assessment and program, which is all about how do you read other people and how do you respond based on the cues, the communication cues that other people are giving you. And then, of course, teams, the 5 behaviors, formerly called the 5 behaviors of cohesive team. We have the team assessment is where we started, and as you'll see, we'll actually add another peg to that as we go on this call. But this is the entire suite that is unfolding for you, and with all of these Everything DISC and 5 behaviors programs, they all follow this very transformational learning model. They all have an assessment associated with them. Then you get this profile that is a narrative, and it's something that people can use both in a class and independently outside of a class. Of course, most people use it in some kind of a developed learning program, so there is an experience associated with that. And if you are familiar with the facilitation kits that are part of all of these programs, there are scripts and videos and slides and everything to help you really drive that experience really well. And then there's a whole bunch of follow-up tools. Matter of fact, one of the things that Wiley is really focusing on right now is how do we make sure to keep the learning alive after the workshop? So there's more and more online tools coming out. One of the things I do want to mention, if you have purchased in the past any of these facilitation kits that you see on your screen, the workplace, the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team, or the DISC management, there are facilitation kit updates available or will be available very, very soon with the management. Later this month is when the management is supposed to be released. So if you've purchased any of these and you have not updated them yet, go ahead and give us a call, contact us, send Samantha a note. She'll help you figure out how to make sure your kit is registered and you have all the latest videos and scripts and everything like that. So, oh, and Ruth just said management has been released. So there you go. So all of these are now available to you. So with that, Evans, I'm going to turn it over to you to give us a quick little introduction on what one of these new products is all about.
Sure. So this is a product I'm really excited about, actually, the Everything DISC EQ. And some of you have seen a little bit of this tool, but it actually is really exciting. As LinkedIn did a survey recently, and emotional intelligence, as well as communication, a couple other things that tie into emotional intelligence, are all listed as some of the biggest needs that people have in developing their workforces. So let me give you just a little bit of a picture into this. And if we want to have further discussion, let's do that outside, because I do want to get to the coronavirus stuff. Here in Everything DISC, a new idea is introduced, and that idea is mindsets. So as we look at the mindsets that actually come out of those DISC styles, each of us has a way in which we choose to interact with the world around us and start to work with people. And I'll just want to call out 2 of these and do a little bit of personal vulnerability here. One of the mindsets that's really high on my list that is actually very easy for me to do is actually to be receptive. Stay open to others' ideas, really listen to them, make sure that all those stuff, everything gets out on the table. At the same time, there's another mindset, kind of diametrically opposed to that, that's self-assured. Self-assured is something I can be, and I think that people on this call, several people on this call have seen me in that role, but it's a role that actually takes more energy from me. So Everything DISC Agile EQ helps people understand what those mindsets are and the value of those mindsets. The first is about discovering your mindsets, the mindsets that are easiest for you to go to. What is the value that comes from that? And then we're going to introduce the power of the other mindsets that you may not use as frequently. Like in a lot of the DISC stuff, it's that we are all capable of doing all of these. Just, we know from neuroscience that our brain uses so much energy and tends to be keyed into how it can be as efficient as possible. We tend to go to the ones that take a little bit less energy from us. So it's set up so that we take a look, we understand our own mindsets, and then we get to recognize what the power is that comes from the mindsets that we are less frequently choosing ourselves. It goes into a little bit of a helping us understand the power of those and why they might be valuable in different situations. And then moves to the third piece of this, which is to actually act so that we can more agilely pull on those other mindsets that might be more helpful to our conversation. And the way that's set up is it actually talks about the power of that. It talks about what might be some of those inner voices that get in our own way around making that flex. So around self-assured, I might have an inner voice that talks about, I don't want to be pushy. It actually kind of helps us identify what are some of those obstacles that we create for ourselves to flex around this model. And then actually gives you action plans around both beginner, intermediate, and advanced ways in which you can start to bring some of these actions in and develop a little bit more comfort about using those more frequently and working with people who have other mindsets in any kind of a discussion or a group setting. So it's a really powerful model that actually builds to an action plan around a few specific things that you want to start to make part of how you interact with those around you on an ongoing basis. It's a really powerful new tool, really excited about that. And as with everything else, there is actually a facilitation kit for this so that you can take this in-house and actually make sure that you're able to use this internally. So I'm not sure how many of you have already taken a look at this. If you haven't, go ahead and take a look at this and see how this works through a little bit of cognitive behavior to help people understand how they can be more effective in their interactions with everybody around them to get us better results in business. That's as quick as I can get through Agile EQ, Brett. I'm going to hand it back over to you to talk about another new product right now.
Fantastic, and I'm gonna see if I can even beat your time here. But the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team, formerly now called the 5 behaviors. That's a habit that's gonna be hard to break. But the 5 behaviors now has a second program out called personal development. So for everybody who knows about 5 behaviors, here's a quick review. If you don't know what the 5 behaviors is, here's your 30-second introduction. This is based on Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And there are these 5 behaviors. And we start with trust, which the whole idea is if we can become more vulnerable and open with each other, and we say, I'm sorry, I apologize, I need help, that enables us to have more healthy, more productive conflict. And if everybody's weighing in, people are more likely to buy in, which allows us to get to the 3rd behavior, which is commitment. And when a team gets really committed to the decisions that that team is making, and you're really clear on how you're going to measure that success, that opens the door to being able to hold each other accountable. This is all about that peer-to-peer accountability. And as teams are getting better at holding each other accountable, well, that keeps us all focused on those collective results. Now, when this program first launched a couple of years ago, it was really all focused on the intact team. We have the product itself was an assessment, still is an assessment about an individual team and how are we doing now on those 5 behaviors and what could we do to improve. So the base assessment gives you a score on those 5 behaviors, and then it gives you an opportunity over time to keep retaking it and shows you where are you progressing, perhaps where are you regressing, and the profile allows an intact team of people to really figure out, okay, what's the action plan? What should we be doing going forward? This new product, the personal development, is a little bit different in that this is really designed for individual team members. Certainly can be used within an intact team, but the focus is really on empowering individuals as well as teams. And the goal of this, or the opportunity that personal development really offers, is that it enables a culture that's focused on collaboration and results. So the way that we're using this is helping everybody in the organization really understand what these 5 behaviors are about, learning where some of their personal issues and opportunities to grow are, and that actually sets them up then as a next step in many cases to use that team assessment with their intact team. Of course, 5 behaviors, personal development has both a profile and a facilitation kit to help you all the way along. So how was that, Evans? I got through it pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
All right, good deal. So so now with the Agile EQ and the personal development added into the suite, here's what this suite looks like. And like I said, the brand refresh is going to be touching all of these. So there will be more and more updates coming from us in the months ahead for sure. And I just have one more exciting for me anyway, update. Hopefully it's exciting for you all. As Evans mentioned, we have a book coming out. It's been delayed a little bit because of the situation at hand, but we have a book that will be coming out, I would guess in the next 3 months, maybe towards the end of second quarter, called Solving the People Problem, the essential skills you need to lead and succeed in today's workplace. And this book, what we've done is we've taken the ideas of DISC and married them with the ideas of emotional intelligence. And we basically talk about this idea of DISC EQ. What's your DISC emotional intelligence? So the little image that you see there is our version of building on all of the great work that's been done on emotional intelligence around looking at, it's about your self-awareness, and your application of that information, and your awareness of others and the application of that information. And we've designed an assessment, a DISC EQ assessment that goes along with the book that really helps people understand, okay, where am I with my own personal emotional intelligence as it relates to DISC and personality styles and communication preferences, things like that. Importantly, the book is not all about everything DISC. It's more broadly about the general concepts of personality styles and different communication preferences and things like that. So we're hoping that it'll be a widely well-received opportunity to learn more about how do we really solve that people problem that is so relevant and so prevalent in all of our organizations. So Evans.
I'm going to make just a quick shout out because I know there's several people on this call who actually shared with us anecdotes and stories along the way,
Yes.
some of which are actually in the book. So I just want to say thank you for those of you who have shared stories with us.
Indeed.
Okay, now to the kind of the bulk of our call where we really want to spend a little bit of time. We know that we are all being impacted by COVID-19 in different ways. We've got a few people here who I know I'm not coming to visit quite as shortly as we thought because we've had to postpone a few things. And we know that this is kind of an ongoing thing and it's changing really rapidly. But what we thought we would do is we've got such a great brain power on here, so we want to cover a couple of things with you. I think what we'll start off with is a little bit of a poll on what's already going on. What are the things that have already started to impact you, and what are the actions that your organization is taking? So, Brett, if you could launch that poll.
Absolutely. Let's go here. Of course, it's there we go. So the poll is: how is your organization responding to COVID-19? Choose all that apply. Closing the office, encouraging work from home, canceled meetings, we've frozen non-essential travel, or not much. Hey, it's business as usual. Everything's going on. All right, I'll give just a second here. So it looks like about 10% of us have actually closed offices. I know some of our friends up in King County have had that opportunity to work from home. Encourage working from home. We're looking still some votes coming in, but fully 82% of us, 90% of us have canceled meetings. 80% of us have frozen non-essential travel, and one of us is not much, business as usual. So for most of us, it's impacting us quite a bit there, Evans.
Okay, super. So we thought we would start off this discussion by sharing a few things we might be able to do to help you out, and just put some ideas out there to kind of sweeten the pot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have some breakout sessions, have you talk amongst one another and share some ideas about what are some of the things you're doing to help kind of keep alive the opportunity for training development in your organizations while we're kind of dealing with this challenge. Okay. So a couple of ways we can help you out. We'll talk about these in order. The first one is there are some ways in which we can be a little bit more creative in how we go about doing learning for your workforce. I'm going to have Brett talk about that. And then we might have people taking this opportunity where they can't do some of their outbound stuff to actually do some development themselves so that as things calm down a little bit, they're just more prepared to be able to support their organization through this. I'll hand it off to you, Brett.
Okay. And let's see if you are, there's any noise going on in the background, please mute your speaker there. There we go. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. So the first thing, and I'll go through these pretty quickly here. The first thing is we're doing a whole lot more virtual learning, using Zoom for one of them. Matter of fact, just this morning, I got a call from San Diego Humane Society, one of our big clients. We had a session scheduled for April 13th to go live in person, and we're going to have to switch that to a virtual learning opportunity. So doing a lot more of that, both with people, at home individually, working straight from their computers, as well as really smaller groups. So, most of our organizations are now looking at, well, we don't want 30 or 50 or 100 people in a room, but, maybe 2 or 3 people around a computer bank could work. So we're doing a lot more of that. And I'd say this is a rapidly evolving opportunity. But for some of you that I know are also thinking about doing this yourself, Zoom is a great tool for that. Of course, WebEx and some of the other tools as well. The other thing I wanted to mention here briefly is we actually have a COVID-19 e-learning program on our website right now. We had a lot of clients that were basically saying, hey, we're trying to update our workforces on what's going on and what this is all about. And there's all these different points of information. So working through one of our e-learning partners, we now have this COVID-19 e-learning program. It talks about the overview of coronavirus, where did it come from, what's it all about, the symptoms, prevention, and some of the high risk things. So if that is something that could be useful to you, you'll see the website there. It's just real easy, integraspa.com/COVID-19. Just an opportunity for us to contribute to helping people really understand what's going on out there and separating some of the fake news from what's actually going on. The other thing that we wanted to share with you, and we were planning on sharing this when we first set up this call, but just in a slightly different way. So we have at Integris, we've created a Everything Disc workplace e-learning program, and we designed this largely out of the reaction or the request from many of you saying, hey, we want to use DISC when we're onboarding people, and they're not able to go into a workshop. But we'd like to onboard them and let them take the DISC workplace assessment. And how do they learn a little bit? So we've designed this e-learning program. It takes most people about an hour and a half to go through. And we're finding is that in response to COVID-19, it kind of lines up with some of that distance learning. So this program really does allow people to learn outside of any kind of a workshop. It's self-directed. It walks them through the entire workplace report. We've made it as interactive as we possibly can with this kind of a medium. There's a lot of videos in there with interactive exercises, asking questions about what you see in the video and how did that person respond and what kind of style does that person have and things like that. So the feedback that we've gotten thus far has really been fantastic around it. It also leverages the myeverythingdisc.com. Many of you know that I really try to promote this. We like to talk about this in all of our programs because it keeps that learning alive. And so the e-learning program really does leverage that. And you can access this e-learning in a couple of ways. It's available to load to your LMS. It's a real easy process. If you want to own it and put it on your LMS, we can do that. We're not even charging for the course itself. There's a small transaction fee to process it and get it up there. But really, the way we designed this was so it can be yours to drive. For a limited time, though, we are making it available on integraspa.com. And in the follow-up information to this call, we'll send you out that link. So if you want to just jump in there and try it, you can. And if you have some people that want to go through it, you can have them go through it there as well. Evans?
Super. So we're really proud of that course, actually. I think it's a really good opportunity for you to actually continue helping that language get in and helping people better understand how that all works if you cannot have workshops. It is really interactive, so really happy with that. The other way in which we're getting some requests and people are looking at growing their skills is, if they can't be running training classes, what can they be preparing so that when that becomes available again, what can they do with it? So I want to hit just 3 of the different programs that are out there from a certification or accreditation perspective. And these can be done in a completely virtual environment. It's a very robust environment at the same time. So the first one of these is Workplace. And the way this is set up is the Workplace certification is an online certification that has a bunch of different program components to it. It's very, very robust. So the first thing is, it is a virtual 4 weeks of self-directed online work, but also tied to 3 90-minute virtual sessions where you're going to go through exercises and you're actually going to present some of it and actually go through some small group facilitation, including what are some of the challenging questions you'll get and what are some of the difficult situations you might deal with in a workshop. There are activities built in throughout the entire program, as well as both a presentation and a certification exam at the end to show that you really have mastered that material and you can be very confident going out and doing a workshop. So for some people who have been presenting workshops and presenting kind of the basics of it, this gets into a lot of the detail behind it, a lot of the research behind it. It will set you up to be much more comfortable presenting any of this material on a go-forward basis. The second one that's online and actually very robust as well is a 5 behaviors accreditation. And I noticed up front, we've got a lot of people who are actually certified in the Everything DISC, but not yet in the 5 behaviors. And 5 behaviors is a different program. It is a little bit heftier in terms of facilitation. Everything DISC, I feel like, is more of a training class. This one is more of a heavy duty facilitation. So 5 weeks of course, plus there's some pre-work that has to be done. Again, those virtual sessions, which are set up along with fellow facilitators to kind of challenge one another and push on how would I present, how would I handle difficult situations. There's a lot of online learning resources to help build out that structure for you and help you feel more comfortable with that, as well as access to a virtual book of the 5 dysfunctions if you haven't read that already, which I would recommend to everybody. And there's also a final accreditation exam here. Both of these give you not just the credential, but actually the support structure and confidence to be able to actually go out and use this material with your people in a much stronger way. We, of course, will stand behind you and support you any way we can. But the opportunity to actually bring more and more of that stuff in-house is another thing that we can do in this time when it's a little bit more difficult to actually be running those workshops ourselves. The third one I want to call out, not quite available yet, but coming soon, is Everything DISC Management Cert. Brett and I both actually participated in testing this course out, and it is really good. Actually, I've been doing DISC management for a long time, but I learned a lot actually in going through this program that I think will make all of my future programs just that much more effective. So a really strong course, similar in design to Workplace and the 5 behaviors, really gets in and gives you a lot of the behind the scenes, what's gone on in the research, what we've seen, how do you handle difficult situations. It really kind of challenges and pushes you. So really excited for when that comes out. We'll obviously be letting you know when that is actually available. But a couple of things that we can do. In terms of signing up, you can sign up through us and register in a couple of different ways, both on our website if you're paying via credit card, or contacting Samantha, and Samantha can walk you through registration if it's something that we got to do through an invoice perspective. Well, from our group, I'm going to let Abby present what we heard from our group.
Okay. So we mostly talked about, you know, what the different organizations are doing in terms of cancellations and things like that, but also focused on what training and support we can provide for remote teams, since it seems like this is going to be an impetus for probably more remote work and telecommuting in the future. So Megan had a really cool thing that they're actually using a manager who's been managing a remote team for a while, put together a webinar for other leaders. And I thought that was a great idea, because then they're hearing from someone within their context of best practices and things that are working well. So that was mostly what we discussed.
Yeah, I think there were just a couple other things that I might add. I heard a lot of talk about looking at moving some things to WebEx to try and handle something, and I thought it was an interesting discussion about the possibility of the moving to more work from home not being COVID-19 being a catalyst for making that happen in places where it hasn't happened, but not the only reason. So, okay, thanks, Abby. Who are some of the speakers from the other groups we had?
Well, this is Reed. I don't know if there's anyone particular. I took some notes, so if my group's okay, I'll kind of point out what I heard.
Thanks, Reed.
I guess that's it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we were fortunate, or we had a couple people from Seattle who, although things sounds like pretty dire up there, they had some plans in place. It was not unusual for people to work remotely and for them to deliver things remotely. So really for them, it was just kind of ramping up what they were already doing, and kind of just accelerating processes that they already had. It was interesting because in our facility, we really haven't done much in terms of distant learning, and in terms of work from home, it's been pretty limited. So for me, there were some interesting things I learned. I had questions about, for instance, when you do training, what's the standard block you learn or you use? And they said, well, typically about an hour and a half to 2 hours, but they really also used the tools that were available from things like WebEx and Zoom. For instance, in WebEx, there's a way you can tell if someone has, kind of checked off and gone to another screen or whatever. You can kind of ping in on those people and ask them a question. They use polling, this idea of going into breakout rooms to kind of keep people engaged. Just one of the tricks about this, particularly training, is that it can't just be static and dry. You've got to find ways to keep people engaged if you're going to keep them motivated to stay with the learning that you're doing. I don't know, were there other things from my group?
Reed, I think you captured it great. Thank you.
Nice work, Reed.
Okay, next group up.
Gary, Sharon, Ruth.
Sharon, you had some really good, I think, given your heightened needs, perhaps you can talk a bit about what you've been doing.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe, because Ruth, you had some great things, but I can go and then maybe you can chime in.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So, being in the Seattle area, in the epicenter, of course, and I know in the other group, there were some folks from Seattle. So it is basically, we've had these telework agreements and things already in place, and it's just more of ramping up of what we already had access to. The trick being is, bringing in those folks who are not currently practicing teleworking and telecommuting, bringing them into the fold, and at the same time running parallel, following the messages cascaded down from the state's leadership, Governor Inslee, and public health offices, incorporating those into daily announcements about how to keep yourself safe, don't panic, and plan and prepare. And then, of course, more of the canceled meetings, non-essential meetings, going to using technology, Skype, Zoom, webinars, and that sort of thing. But it's pretty much business as usual, but just doing our business in a different manner than what we have been.
And in addition to that, one of the things from a learning and development perspective is we utilize a learning platform called Degreed, as well as have full access subscription to LinkedIn Learning. But Degreed is just a learning platform. I'm not plugging them in particular, but we have created or in the process of creating what's called a pathway for our employees and managers, in which it will contain all kinds of information about how do you successfully and productively work at home, resilience, time management, stress management, managers, how do you effectively manage people from home. Again, we do have a lot of work from home folks already, but this is just being more active around how do you manage your work and time in a situation such as this for us, which would be temporary. Most people do work in the office. So it's really just a lot of content from different sources. We use WebEx, so how do you effectively utilize WebEx for virtual meetings, or WebEx training for virtual meetings, all those different types of content that just to make available to people as a resource. So we're trying to push that out quickly. And again, like everybody else, moving stuff to virtual or postponing or canceling, or, you know, we had an emergency meeting yesterday with all our managers, our senior leadership, our president and CEO talked to all the managers, those types of things. But from a how can we help you perspective, we're putting together this training plan via Degreed.
Wonderful. Brett, do we have one more group to report out?
Nope, that was it. Just the three.
That was it? Okay, super. I took some notes on those things, some great ideas. I think we'll get that put together and sent back out to people. We did have an offer in our group that we're going to check on to see if we can actually get a kind of a beginning learning to lead a distance group for managers. So anything that people share with us as far as tools, we'll get out to everybody who's on this call. We really do want to try and build this as a community going forward. So I think there are just a couple last items to get us out of here, Brett. I think I'm going to hand it off to you.
Yeah, really, and really just wrapping up. We'll follow up with everybody, both who's joining the call live and the folks that weren't able to make it live, with links to the e-learning that we talked about, notes from the discussions, a link to the recording, all those things. And to your point, Evans, you know, this is about trying to engage the community and make sure that everybody knows what the what's available, what other people are doing using DISC and 5 behaviors. And so, you know, our goals with sharing the latest and the greatest is less about, it's about selling, and it's more around, hey, making people aware. Now, that said, several of you did private message me and ask some of the, hey, what is the cost of this? What is the cost of that? So we'll include that stuff afterwards. We'll also give you a survey, because one of the things that we really want to do, this is the first of these access calls, and obviously it was a custom developed topic, which I think we will normally do, but we'll have a little survey to ask, you know, what'd you like, what didn't you like, and what kind of suggestions do you have? What would you like to see out of these going forward? Our intention here and our plan is to do one of these calls fixed every quarter to give you the latest updates. Some of them will have more interaction. Some will have maybe some guest speakers, things like that. So we'd love to hear what you want to see out of these. And finally, I'd say, as always, my door is always open. Evan's door is always open. Samantha, if you need any assistance with anything, we are here for you in any way we can. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close it out, and hope you all have a great Friday. Hunkering down at home, most likely, and have a great weekend. Thanks for joining, everybody. Really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Brett. Bye, Evan. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Closing out, my friend.
Okay.
We'll talk to you shortly. Bye-bye.
Yep.